Greetings, Neocoma Black Love family. It's Montsho and Nwasha of the mighty Acoma House Initiative, here to serve you with the art and science of Black love culture. We wanted to come to you briefly and talk about Spring into Love, the new semester in the Black Love School. But first, the next class. If you're following us here on this page, you see that we are dealing with conscious courting, which is the next um, class that's coming up in the Black Love School, the live Q&A review. So for the next week and a half, we're talking about conscious courting. And so what is conscious courting? We get a lot of inquiry about what it is and is this a new concept, et cetera, et cetera. So first, conscious courting is just courting with purpose, courting with a system, courting with intention. I think a lot of time today we're coming together because we're lost culturally and we've lost the system of mating, dating, and connecting. We just do things for, you know, ridiculous reasons. But conscious courting is actually not a new thing. It is actually our cultural way. It's actually our cultural model. It is the intention of nation building. So courting is simply the process of interviewing or selecting, vetting, and committing to a mate for nationhood. That's what courting is. And so a lot of things are involved in it, a court, a purpose, a system, etc. But this is what we're on, and this is what the focus has been this week. So, anything you want to add?
Not yet.
Okay, so as we said that if you're going to be courting, you need to have some intention.
Well,
So,
actually, I do want to
okay,
say
go
something. I
for
just
it.
want to drop a question for anyone who's listening right now or anyone who catches, the replay of this. Before we get into anything, I want to know what you think is the reason why it's difficult for people to get together and stay together. Because I always like to know, what someone is thinking or what your experience has been out in the world as a person who is looking for the divine partner or who thinks that they found the divine partner. What has been the challenge or what is the challenge in coming together? Because I think a lot of times people don't think of courting in the same way that we're talking about it tonight. I think people want to get together, obviously. There's a big desire to get together. There's like tons of money spent in dating apps and preparing for being ready for a date. I think and money to me represents a lot of energy. So if you're going to pay for a subscription, or you're going to pay for a matchmaker, or you're going to pay for an experience, it's a lot of investment in what is already earned, right? Our energy and our money, or the money that equals some energy. So it takes a lot of effort. But I don't know that everyone thinks of courting in a very conscious way. So I always, think that that's really a good place to start is what problems you think that you've had, because this puts the conversation in context. For us, we're talking about, as you said, something that's not new. The idea that people would be put together with consciousness is actually the oldest idea
Right,
in creation. Because,
right,
if we're talking about people being created, the, longevity of life, the endurance of life, the perpetual nature of life means that we keep getting together to create new life and new life and new life. So the oldest thing in the world is coming together to extend humanity. And I
mm,
think that cultures whichever, most people who are following us are black culture, but from a lot of different places. And there's stories that we know from our parents, grandparents, or just whatever the story is of our culture of how people have traditionally done that. Is it families? Is it by trade, profession? Is there like divining involved that you're saying, this is what I'm looking for? I think that those things are our most ancient ways. But today, we forget about that. And we are maybe going by proximity or maybe going by physical attraction. And I think it's an interesting thing to bring consciousness, as you said, purpose to the idea of courtship.
Well, yeah, I see that. We got some commentary there from Brother Ronnie and Sister Crystal. I think that intention is lost. So we're not seeing relationships in general as a vehicle to build nationhood. We're seeing relationships or the semblance of that as some way of pacifying ourselves psychologically or emotional entertainment or something that is the means to a physical satisfaction in, right? So, like, we ain't really trying to do anything other than that. Pacify ourselves, escape our own sense of loneliness and lack of purpose, heal or pacify, not really heal, but pacify wounds from the past and from the oppressive society and culture that we find ourselves in. We're either doing that or we're just looking for emotional entertainment like you cute or I got tickets to this thing. Let's get together so we could, spend some time. Or I think probably one of the most damaging is using each other for secondary masturbation or some kind of physical satisfaction where we're using each other sexually and not really addressing the soul tie that happens when we entwine our mind, body, and soul together that way. So this is what I see a lot of, you know what I mean? We just coming together and we don't really have intention. And I think when it comes to courting, it's very important for us as brothers, those of us that have some forward thinking, some progressiveness, that we have intention. It's okay to have companionship. It's okay to enjoy a singular event or an experience, but to actually court, we need to be looking for a purpose. And so we often talk about the pre-qualification, for brothers, right? Because, and sisters too, but brothers are usually the ones initiating the contact. We're attracted to women or we're smitten by the beauty of women, which is a good thing. We have a healthy lust. That's a good thing, to see a woman and be moved and inspired because that's what they do, right? They inspire us. So that's a beautiful thing. But now when you start to engage her, you got to have purpose about why you're doing what you're doing. Where is it ultimately going to? And I found, just in my own experience in my youth and irresponsibility, just being moved by the inspiration or the awe-stricken wonder of the beauty of black women is not enough. You get yourself in trouble. You'll create a dynamic that will affect your life for years in having children that you have to deal with, or even, some of the other challenges that we get in terms of our health and the longevity of our health. So it's like a real thing, right? So brothers got to have some intention. Like, what are you looking for? I say that ideally, you know that it's time for you first to nation build. And then you go look for the woman. You don't really look for the woman and then make the decision. You make the decision first. And then it's like a job or buying a house or buying a car. You make the decision first. And then you go out there and find the car, the house, the job that's right for you, the career that's right for you, right? So we got to have intention if we the brothers. And I think for the sisters, you got to have a system. If you don't have a system, you will allow yourself, or you will offer yourself to be led astray and run amok. And then oftentimes I see sisters strive to be the victim, when the truth of the matter is, if you don't have a system, you are putting yourself up for anything, right? You're putting yourself up. Then when anything happens, you're saying, this shouldn't happen to me. So I think this is a part of the art and the science that we talk about, or the why and the how, or the philosophy and the methodology that we got to have in relationships, right? So men have to have they have to understand why, and they have to have the why first and then move forward. But the sisters really got to have, that's the art. The sisters really got to have the science. We both need them both. We both need them both. Um, and the science usually comes naturally to the men, and the art usually comes natural to the women, or easier, I should say. However, we have to move with intention because that's what courting is. The other thing I want to say is that in courting, you got to have a court, right? And what is a court? A court is a group of people who are successful in relationship, in marriage, in mating. They have some years of experience on you in terms of being able to navigate a relationship successfully. They have been married 7 to 14 years longer. They have been mated 14 to 21 years longer. Even sometimes if they are younger than you chronologically, they're still an elder in terms of the execution of mating in marriage. So a court is a group of people that have your best interest in mind, but are not just your family or friends. They may be a family or friend, but they're not just that. I think a lot of times because we do weddings, and I think a lot of times when we're performing weddings, I look out at the groomsmen and the bridesmaids, and oftentimes when we see young couples, and I'm saying young, like 45 and between 25 and 45, that 20-year stretch, right? A lot of times the couple being married that we're marrying is the only married people in this procession. And that's always disheartening to me because what we're standing up as the officiants saying is that before the nation and before the mother, father, creator, we are going to be guides for this couple to help lead them. But they also need, she needs people and he needs people. So this group of sisters that's there should be more than just your homegirl that like fuchsia or, whatever color scheme you got, or your man that been your day one, and been down with you forever. Those are good people to be a part of your ceremony, but they should not be the court because they don't have the experience. They don't have the successful execution that would give them the applied knowledge, which we call wisdom, that leads to deep understanding, the best part of consciousness, having a full understanding for them to say, hey, this is what you should consider here. Hey, this is what you might be overlooking. This is what you might be this is what you might be distorting, blowing out of proportion. This is what you might be deleting, minimizing, which is very important to understand. So when you don't have people who represent that in your court, the marriage becomes an empty party that doesn't have real purpose, the marriage ceremony. But what the marriage ceremony is supposed to be is the consecration of a commitment in front of the two families and the nation being um, driven by the court, which is, in this case, if we were doing your ceremony, it would be us as the officiants committing. And it would also be the bride's maids, those sisters who are experienced and who are standing up before the nation saying, we will take responsibility for this sister and help her through the journey of what being a wife is. Because being a bride is different than being a wife. A bride is a role at a event, but a wife is a role through a lifetime experience. And similarly with a husband and a groom is a role at an event. But the event, you've been to weddings, is like 20 minutes. But the actual journey is a lifetime. So the husband is very different than the groom. And so the court is a group of people. So we talk about conscious courting. and really helping people develop their court, because even couples who are established need a court. You need a group of couples to keep you clear, to keep you focused, to keep you reminded of your purpose, and to give you the opportunity to stay fresh and to move reciprocally, to take and give, to give and take in your community. So I'm saying that a healthy couple has at least three couples on her side and three couples on his side. Now, unfortunately, in the space that we in, a lot of people don't even know three couples that are thriving. So, what we did in the Black Love School in this particular class called Conscious Courting, we actually created a template and a letter for individuals to draft to actually find people in their community, whether that community is geographic or even if it's a cyber community, people that you're looking at that you know, and actually send this letter and request for people to be your court. And it's amazing because people have been using the letter. And as always, I always say we have a pessimistic view of each other, but really we always want to connect. We always want to collaborate. We always want to add to each other. Anybody who's successful at something wants to share. Imagine a young child coming up to you saying, "Hey, sis, I really like the way you look and the way you keep yourself. Can I meet with you once a season over the phone or over Zoom or whatever so you could give me your tips?" Most sisters would agree to that. If a brother said, "Hey, bro, I really like your swag. I really like what you doing out here in the world. I like how you move. Could I meet with you, uh, you know, once a season over the phone or over Zoom so you could give me some tips that I could take note? Or could I, if I'm in your geographic area, could I attend? Could I spend half a day with you for you to initiate me into the skill and the understanding that you have?" Most people say yes to that. So what we found is that when people send this letter, not only do people say yes to them, they actually say, "Hey, they usually 9 times out of 10, the person is willing to do more than what you ask, because everybody wants to have the role of educator and teacher, not to be arrogant, but to share wisdom. The need for contribution is one of the 7 basic human needs. So you want to contribute to the well-being of others, right? And so whether you giving a quarter to the man in front of the 7-Eleven or a dollar, give him a dollar. Don't give him a quarter in today's economy, but give him a dollar or $3 to $5. Right? Whether you blessing that brother or sister, or whether you helping the younger brother or sister find their way through something, we all want to contribute. Or it's your children or your siblings or your family member, right? But we definitely need a collective body to help us with this relationship dynamic. So we got to have people that are willing to say, "Yo, let me share something with you, young brother. Let me share something with you, young sister." So you got to have a court. This is for the serious people. The people that's bullshitting, we trying to highlight y'all so we can get y'all up out of here. But the people who are really serious, you're going to need a court. And so this is part of the reason that we created the Black Love School, to have an international community. And that's what we have, an international community of singles and couples from, like, right now, about 11 to 10 countries are operating right now in the Black Love School, all over the states and many other countries, that people could come together and say, "Yo, here's what I'm finding. Here's what has worked for me." You know what I mean? And here's what I'm finding is working for me, and take the best part and leave the rest. This is how we grow. This is how we grow. I see you, Chico. Peace to Brother Oba. So this is how we grow. And this is how we exchange. And this is how we share. And this is what we're talking about. So we're in the conscious courting. We're in the semester of Spring into Love. And I want Nwasha to kind of talk about some of the things that is happening in the Black Love School. Of course, we go by the season, right? And so we're in the season of Spring into Love. And, hey, talk to the people. Tell them what's good.
Well, we've already started the spring. So far the overall, the season is about newness. So for us here on the East Coast of the United States, it's officially spring for us, right? So this is the time that it's gonna warm up, the flowers are blooming, all the things that you think of in a traditional spring story. For some
Right.
people, depending on where you live, it can feel like perpetually spring or summer, depending on where you are. But there's a kind of newness that comes with the season. Even if you are in warm weather, there's still the idea of a kind of esoteric meaning to spring. So I think that relationships need new energy, and that's basically what we're talking about in the spring, is how you can make changes and not be afraid to make those changes to invite what you actually want into your life. That is very important in relationships because we're often thinking about what we don't want all the time. So we're like, we don't want someone to cheat on us. We don't want someone to lie to us. We don't want someone to be unavailable. But when you only think of what you don't want, all of your energy is kind of focused into what not to think. So, I know when we're in class, I'm always saying to people, can you imagine someone telling you, don't think of an elephant with, two pink bows on its ears balancing on a little blue ball, right? It's hard to not think of what is being said, and that's what happens in our own minds. If we're thinking, I don't want someone to cheat, I don't want someone to cheat, I don't want someone to cheat, not saying that you're going to make them cheat, but you tend to attract the person who is less committed, right? You're not doing some magic spell and making them make choices, but we also subconsciously choose situations that prove our story of life to ourselves. So if I think that people are liars, I tend to attract and position myself in a way that is holding back, which is
Right.
kind of like the polarity, or I would say like a complementary energy to lying, is that if I hold back something, I attract other people who are not forthcoming, and or I just suspect that someone's lying all the time, and then that makes them uncomfortable where they might subconsciously withhold again. So it's really important when you want new energy. If you've been attracting people and it hasn't been what you wanted, then you definitely want to do something different. If you've been in a long-term relationship and you want it to feel vibrant and passionate, then you also need to know how to create new energy with a person that you've already been with. A lot of times we want new energy and we'll create that for ourselves, which could be look different, go somewhere different, pick up something different, like new hobbies, new activities. And a lot of times what that causes is a feeling or a real state of being of growing apart, instead of us doing new things and creating, new versions of ourselves within a relationship that we actually are happy with. So we say a lot of times, quoting some people who've done a lot of work in relationship space, that when you are cheating, you really actually want a new version of yourself, not necessarily a new. You might actually love the person that you're with, which is very hard for people to understand. That you could possibly do something, creating a new version for yourself that hurts another person that you actually care about. So I think that, over the course of the spring, we're going to be talking about taking care of our body, taking care of our goals, really nurturing something that we want to see, being able to embrace change, for ourselves and for the other person. What does it look like to make room in a relationship to actually expand? Because I think a lot of times we have a reactionary kind of culture where, especially in relationships, if something doesn't work, we will swing the pendulum all the way to the other side pretty quick. So, we don't know really how to troubleshoot in relationships because it's so painful to feel rejected or to feel unloved. And so, if we just want something new, we're liable to come up with anything because of our creativity and imagination. And it can kind of be actually counter having a fulfilling relationship. So we want to talk about that all throughout the summer. This is really, to me, some of the trust and intimacy building, as we go from the winter into the spring and then into the summer, where it's really passion, and the intimacy and sex, heat of love. I think it's very important to plant the seeds in the spring for yourself. So that's what we'll be working on is how to lose waste, the mental, emotional, physical waste so that you feel like you have a renewed body actually. Um, but also how to renew your goals in your relationship and your goals for yourself, how to renew your identity. I think that that's something that's very important when you're meeting someone, you're presenting, but it's not necessarily the whole you. When you've been with someone for a while and they know you, it's kind of like, especially if we've been together, we've known each other for a very long time. So it becomes like oldest
A
friend,
minute.
or like even like I think your family. Like I can say definitely my siblings have seen me go through a lot of different changes. Absolutely, my parent, right? Sometimes in those kinds of relationships, you can either feel really loved and supported and know like unconditional love, or you can feel limited and boxed in because a person is saying that's not how you really are, or that's you didn't used to be into that. So you, when someone has known you for a while, this goes, I think, our fear about what that means is going to be predicated on what other kinds of experiences we've had. If we've been embraced for reinventing ourselves, then it can come easy in certain relationships. If we haven't, then it can seem like, okay, now I do have to hide a part of myself in order to expand and grow. I'm going to do that over here. But in my relationship, I'm actually afraid to do that. And that plays out, I think, in a lot of things with goals, with career, with sex. How are you going to do new things that you actually find newness and expansion where you are instead of having to look for it someplace else? So these are the things that we're going to talk about and answer some questions in the webinar. So we're not going to do it on Facebook so that we can actually go deep into the conversation and be private. So if you are interested in joining us next week, then you just click the link and sign up so that we can send you the private link. We'll be on Zoom, so we can send you the private link to join us.
Yeah, and the intention is just for us to spread the information of the Black Love School for literally pennies a day. I think it ends up being $1.40 a day. You are able to get a wide swath of breadth
Yeah.
of the art and science of Black love culture in a way that you will not get anywhere else. You'll have fun. You'll be supported. You might even get the hookup. You might see somebody in there that you feeling and you might want to step to. We're a better place than a place where we're talking about what's really popping with relationships. And so we're in the spring semester, but with your membership that is pennies a day, you're able to access all the semesters, all the classes and courses that exist in the Black Love School. They all have heart work assignments that's going to give you transformation. As I mentioned in the conscious courting, one part of it is just to use this interest letter to help build your court. Because if you are, if you are single or mated, you need a court. You need a court to make it through this wilderness called North America, the UK, wherever you find yourself in the Western world. You need to have a court because pop culture, the internet, TV, music, the social order of things is anti-black love. People say, oh, well, if I'm for me, it doesn't mean that I'm against you. Well, I don't necessarily know that that's true because it seems like in the global system of racism, white supremacy, everything that is against us. So if we are advocating for our best intention, we are 100% against that. So I don't understand why some. I think I understand that it is a fear tactic, and it is a cognitive dissonance terminology to say, just because I'm for me, I'm not against you. But if you are my oppressor, I am against you, and being for me is against you. So that's just my little divergent thought right there. But I see it a lot. I see people say that a lot because we have a dual consciousness. as our elder Du Bois said, we're caught up in a dual consciousness. We're trying to serve two masters, and it doesn't work. Serve yourself, serve your culture, be a representative of that. That's my nugget of wisdom. But in the Black Love School, we have 4 semesters because we always ride with the seasons. So in the spring, it's spring into love, new beginnings and new relationships. You want to start a new relationship or how to bring fresh energy into establish one. In the summer, it's the heat of love, intimacy and sex, not sex and intimacy, because it's intimacy that creates mind blowing sex, not the other way around, as most people misnomerly say. I don't even know if that's a word, misnomerly. But um, then we have the harvest of love, how the extended community, friends, family, and the extended community affect the intimate relationship. How you deal with it if your best friend don't like your mate, and all the things that we have to deal with in that cipher. And then we have the culture of love in the winter, which is the high cultural, spiritual African science and the intimate relationship and how we utilize that. So we run that way all year long, but when you are a member for a couple of pennies a day, you are able to move in listen to any of the audio visual classes and then come to the live call with input. But as a group, we have 2 master classes that we focus on per month and then 2 live calls. So every other week, a new class is out, and then every other week, it's a live call where we're coming together with international singles and couples to talk about the hard work assignments and the art and science of that particular class. So this particular class that we'll be having live call for next Friday is on conscious courting. But next Wednesday, a week from today, we're having an open house to anybody who may have questions about the Black Love School and want to understand it more deeply. And we'll have members from the Black Love School to tell you how things have been working for them. We just had one of our premier Akoma Kings in the Black Love School announce a new commitment with his queen and had her on the screen last week. So we get it on. We share. It's very emotional. It's very beautiful. It's very supportive. It's none of the BS. It's none of the gender wars. It's none of that whack stuff. It's only black love. And we don't always agree, but it's only respect and support and encouragement as we all individually and collectively move to the relationship of our wildest dreams. I'm telling you, as a therapist, as a person who's been in many, many circles, from spiritual, religious, political, and cultural circles for the last 40 plus years, I've never seen anything like the Black Love School. I don't believe that anything like it exists. And I don't say that arrogantly, I say it humbly because we're honored to serve, and that's what we're here to do. So if you are interested in just seeing what this thing is about, or you know somebody that will be interested, please share this video. Click this link. Come join us next Wednesday. Ask any question you want to ask. Look and see how inexpensive it is to have this ultimate community around Black love and the art and science of Black love culture. So you can't beat this with a baseball bat. It's less than a gym membership. It's, can I say the price? Can I just say it?
No.
Okay.
And,
All right.
really, it's not about the money. I think it's a really great value, but it's more about the fact that you want something to work for you in the best way possible, in the fastest way possible. And that's what's really important. It could be a lot more, but it's really about you investing in yourself.
I was about to say. Okay. All right. All right. All right. I agree. I agree. Beautiful black wife. I agree. Invest in yourself, yo. Get your black love on. I
Nobody's
think,
trying to get love on a discount, right?
yeah,
Like, this is really about intention and about, are you doing
absolutely.
anything that works for you? And if you think you are, could it be better? Could it be faster? Could it be more potent? Could it be more fulfilling? This is really what you do anything for. So, the most important things in life, most people are not trying to get those on a discount. That's just how it is. Maybe you'll go for some uh, accessories to life, and you're trying to get a deal per se. But I think that most of the things that people care about, again, it's about the energy. So I think it's very reasonable, and I think it's
Oh yeah, it's
very
more than
doable
reasonable.
for
Yeah.
any adult who's listening to us. But it's
If
really about the thing that's going to convince you if you need community around love is what you're already experiencing. If you don't have the best community around love, if you're not getting what you actually want to see, and I'm saying in your heart, not what you think you have to settle for, not what you think maybe exists, like not that, not any of the talking yourself out of something. But if you're not in what you want to be in, whether that's for yourself showing up in the world, this is your one chance at life ever. If you're not getting what you want, then you have to do something about it. And if you're listening to us, you're probably in the range of life where you can do something about it and go on to live an amazing present
yeah,
and an amazing future.
yeah,
If you don't do something about your situation, whether you're in a relationship and you want more from yourself and from the relationship, your partner, or you're not in the relationship, what you really have to imagine is if everything stays the same, how will you feel at 90 and 100 and 150, knowing that you're coming to the end of your one time here on the planet and you haven't experienced the kind of love that you want? I'm a firm believer that love is the ultimate thing. And I believe that we are not experiencing enough of it. So, a lot of our depression, anger, physical illness is really coming from a broken heart in a way. Like a heart that's not active in love, either numb or broken,
right.
And I think that we don't give that enough respect because maybe love is not as tangible as your bank account, or maybe love is not as tangible as things that you can collect with the money from your bank account. But what we were just even talking about today, a lot of times when people pursue other things, what they realize is it's not bringing the deeper level of fulfillment.
Yeah,
We actually get,
absolutely.
I think, more fulfillment in the pursuit, but people don't say that to us. They don't teach us that. So
Yeah,
in the striving for the car and the house and the money and the business, we have a lot of excitement, a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and we're checking things off and we're feeling really accomplished. What happens though when we make that the end instead of the pursuit and the journey being the end, that's the biggest thing. Sometimes we secure those things and it doesn't actually bring us the joy that we were anticipating. That I think that definitely happens in relationship.
yeah,
So you can pursue
absolutely.
someone and think they're beautiful, and then as soon as you have sex, you lose interest.
Yeah,
You can pursue someone and plan the wedding of you think your wildest dreams, right? And then after the honeymoon, have an issue because you're not focused on the marriage. You are extremely detailed about the wedding ceremony. And those are the types of things that you say, okay, now that I got this, and now that I'm married, and now that I have this person, I'm feeling flat. And what a lot of us do is go to pursue another thing because of kind of like the little dopamine
or
that we
another
get.
person.
And that's true. Another
Yeah,
person, another goal, but what happens is we can set aside the thing that we had, right? So if you're like, oh, well, I got married, so now what's next, right? It let me open the business. So now we direct all of our energy to opening the business and can neglect the marriage that we just got.
right.
Or we can put all of our effort into doing business and then not have the marriage, right? I think that the idea of life is to be as full as we can in multiple areas, multiple slices of the pie of our whole life. And we're not taught that in any kind of Western culture. It's very segmented where you can say, okay, now I can focus on education. Now I can focus on, business. Now I can focus on a relationship. Now I can focus on having children, right? And really, all of those things are us. And I think what happens is we feel a kind of letdown when society has told us that the goal is to get married, the goal is to have sex, the goal is to have a baby. And then we're like, oh, now I have this baby. I've done the pregnancy, I've had the baby. And same thing. We joke around a lot with our clients. Someone once told me, and I've been saying this ever since, when you look at your spouse or you say, hey, we're going to have a baby, I'm pregnant, or do you want to have a baby? It's so much better to say, do you want to have a 14-year-old? Do you want to have a 30-year-old? Like, you have to realize you're only going to have a baby for a couple of months. truthfully. You are in it for the long
Yeah,
haul. Just
absolutely.
like you're saying, okay, let's get married. We're proposing. We picked a date. We picked a venue. That same level of intention, I actually don't know. I know very, very, very few people who have done that with their marriage very publicly, the way they've done it with their wedding. So
Yeah,
now
that's
people
no
might
doubt.
have that private conversation, but the way you said, wear this color, show up at this place, be at this time, and save the date, and so many things you have to do a year in advance, sometimes 2 years in advance. I don't know the person who said, okay, now we're going to talk about, sex in that way, finances in that way, how we're going to run 24 hours together in that way, you know, extended family in that way. We have careful conversations where we might walk on eggshells, and sometimes we have blow ups and we're trying to piece each other, piece things back together. But I think so many people put so much intention and effort into events because we have a very external culture. But the
Right.
things that
Superficial too.
go in on inside of us are sometimes, overlooked or neglected, right? We just maybe ignore it, saying that it's not as important because we don't see the feedback from others that says it's important. But in my opinion, is the most important thing
No doubt.
because it will be the thing that erodes any of the things we're talking about. If you are pursuing a certain dollar amount in your business but ignoring your customer experience, you might hit the dollar amount and be burnt out, have to always go get new customers, not be able to think of the next product, whatever it is, because the actual holistic system is not there. And I
Yeah.
think that when we look at relationships and we say, I can't find anybody, which we would love, we're going to come back and read all of what you think is the challenge. And we're saying, like, maybe your personal challenge, but also what you see out here in the world about black men and black women. So
What
I've
is
seen the statistics that say in a couple of years, half of black women are going to be single forever. I've seen the statistics that say in a couple of years,
not if I'm here, they
black
won't.
men, right? And these are the things that we're really working to build community around. There's a certain amount of healing that has to happen in our experience of relationship. And we need to do it personally, but not in a way where we then, again, retreat so much for the so called healing and licking of our wounds and say, hey, I'll deal with the stuff I know about myself more than I'll try to put myself out there. But we really have to actually heal in a way that extends beyond ourselves so that we can make a world where we actually want to live in it.
Well, I know that I'm definitely committed to that, and I have been committed to that, to serve in my community, my sisters and brothers, to share and to deposit and withdraw equally with those that are interested in what we are committed in our life purpose to offer to the group. So, for those that listen, I think that there's many domains in life we could look at, and I think the top three are in order. I think health is number one. I think that health is the only thing that is above relationships. Your physical health in the material world is primary. So your wellness, your fitness, etc., your psychological and emotional health, right? That's number one. Right after that is relationships. Right after that is not career or money, but service to the group. So you could call it career, you could call it the bag, you could call it whatever. But truly, if you're a leader, if you are a success, if you're great, you're serving. There is no greatness without serving. There's no such thing. So if you're not serving a lot of people, you're not great. I don't care how cute you think you are, how talented you are. If you're not serving the mass of our people, you're not great, right? If you want to be great, and I do, you want to be great?
I do.
You are great, right?
I
If you
actually,
want to be great, you have to serve a lot of people, right? So I think we could go on to the top five or seven, and it's debatable, but I would say, you know,
I think that relationships or love is first. And I know it's really, really, really close,
yeah,
but I think that sometimes people turn to hurting their health because of their feelings about love, rejection of self, and
well,
especially as you're an adult.
well, this is what I would say. so much of this material world is predetermined by our physical appearance and other things like that. If you're not if you're not taking care of yourself, you're certainly not qualified to take care of somebody else. You may be let me clarify that. You may be qualified, but you're not executing at a high level. You're Most people are qualified to take care of themselves, but they're not doing what they know because of a myriad of things, right? Psychologically, they're hurt, they're unpracticed, their skill level is weak. But I'm saying to be able to get up and walk across the room, or to bend down and pick something up, or to smile and have your teeth, or to have your skin. Those of us that are stricken with maladies, they seem to understand and respect health and physical well being more sometimes than people who are not. We tend to get neglectful, and I know I have been there. And then we start justifying, well, I'm older, well, this happened, well, this and this happened. We're 3 years or 2 years out of the pandemic, and a lot of people still talking about pandemic weight and things like that. And that's real. I understand it's real. But what I'm saying is that health, our fitness, our wellness, our health has to be primary. That includes our spiritual and cultural health. Because as black people, a lot of us, especially in the Western world, don't have a cultural health, right? Like, we bugging. We're truly disconnected from the God force, that the true and living God that is inside of us. And we are certainly speaking English, French, Spanish, uh, in a Portuguese, a whole bunch of stuff. We are out of our mind. We're not connected to our cultural symbols, our rituals, etc. So we got to have a cultural understanding of self, right? So now, once you have that, the next thing, you got to have relationships. And I'm telling you, of all the relationships, your children, your siblings, your friends, nothing costs more or pays more than the intimate relationship. Nothing is as gratifying as this relationship. Nothing challenges you more. Nothing requires more skill. And this is why people try to drift away from it. But I've met a lot of people who can deal with the fact that, hey, I really wanted to have children, but I did not. I can deal with people who say, hey, I lived this world as an only child and I didn't have siblings. I've seen people who say, I've lived most of my life not knowing who my biological parents were. But you rarely find a person who can justify never finding intimate love and never feeling that, never exchanging that. In fact, I have never seen it. I have never met a person who said, I never found this, and I've found a way to live with that. I've never experienced that. So my hierarchy of what I'm coming with, and what I'm analyzing from watching my brothers and sisters, is just that I see that we got to have health. And then right after that, we got to have relationships, but not just any kind of relationship. This one, this intimate, this meritic, this merkut, this highest level, this house of love is a very important thing. And it's simple, but it's not easy. And so we created the Black Love School for a lot of reasons. Number one, to bring us together under the banner of culture, because it is our group value system that emanates from our nature. And although it manifests in various different ways that we call it, Akan, Igbo, Zulu, Candomblé, Ifa, Kemetic, whatever we call it, Islamic, Hebraic, Moorish, whatever, right? It's still our value system that emanates from in us and controls our thought, speech, and action, our symbol recognition and creation, our emotional response, our logic progression, the way we move, our dances, and all of that. When you see a Moor or a Hebrew or a Muslim or an Akan brother dance, he black, it'd be like the same dances. You know what I mean? It'd just be having different names, like the Harlem Shake or whatever, right? And the same with the sisters. You know what I mean? So the point is that it's a universal culture that we gotta understand. But when it comes to the dynamic of relationships, y'all, it's something that we're missing. And so for us in Spring into Love, we start going into what is love, and then right after that, the pre-qualification of love, and then let's court. Let's get together because we have to be fruitful and multiply. Somebody had just said at this conference that we went to with the Ma'at, shout out to the Ma'ats and the Make It Last Forever conference in DC was incredible, right? And a room full of singles and couples that are really looking to master this thing, right? Somebody said when you talk about being fruitful and multiply, the first thing is being fruitful. In order to be fruitful, you have to understand your purpose and you have to have intention. And then you can multiply by getting with another. And then if y'all decide to create offspring or share your purpose and ideas and your gifts with the multitude of your
And
people.
multiplying zero is still zero.
Yeah. So when you multiply 0 times 0, you get 0. You know what I'm saying? So we have to do something more than that. And so the Black Love School is an offering. It is
So join us.
it is pennies a day for you to come and get this. And I'm only saying that not because I'm focusing on the price, but we're wasting a lot of money on a lot of things. And you got a membership. You got the membership dues for the Black Love School, although Nwasha won't let me say the price. You got it in your pocket right now. It's nothing, right? If you got a paper route, you got this. So we want y'all to come, share this video. Definitely share it with a friend. Join us next Wednesday so you can interface with us directly and ask us any question about any of the classes. We'll pull up all the titles of the classes so you can look at the Spring into Love classes, the Heat of Love classes, the Harvest of Love classes, the Culture of Love classes, and we'll have members of the Black Love School there. Those that have been with us, the price is so low. Most people are with us 2 to 3 years, actually. The Black Love School is 7 years old, and most people usually rock with us about 18 months to 3 years is the average stay because it takes a while to just make a round of those classes so that you can get that deep art and science. But we're here to serve you. That's our mission. We want to see you have the relationship of your wildest dreams, and we want to affirm for you that it's possible and that you can do it with a little bit of help. And we're offering ourselves up to be a part of your court. Don't you want us as part of your court? Your brother and sister that know a little something, that's standing on the back of great jegnas that have taught us, that are standing on the foundation of our culture. This ain't no fairy taleism. This ain't no romanticism. This is Montsho and Nwasha. This is the Acoma House Initiative's offering of the Black Love School, the International Relationship Academy that serves our brothers and sisters, whether they're single, mated, or married, with the art and science of Black love culture. So come get yours. We here for y'all. We looking forward to y'all. Join us next Wednesday. And until then, wait, you got any more? Okay. Until then, as always, we greeting you in the universal words of Black love culture, and we say,
Niakoma.
Niakoma Hotep.